Chris. Good afternoon. Thanks everyone for coming out today. Bulls coming off a 23-20 overtime victory over nationally ranked Northern Illinois on Saturday. We'll finish up non-conference play this Saturday at UCONN noon on Saturday afternoon. Coach, whenever you're ready, we can open up with a statement and I'll take questions.
Sure. Appreciate everyone coming out as always, and congrats to the Bills on their big win last night. Coach McDermott and I were texting, and really happy for them and the great start to the season that they're having. It's that point in the year. I'm kind of a little scruffy today, a little crabby. Last night the coach's dinner was a little late getting delivered. I was a little hangry about that, and then got home. I don't know, it was about 11:15, and Jen had gotten some new appliances delivered to the house. We needed some new appliances, and she was all excited to show me these new appliances, and I just walked straight by and up the stairs, and I said, I got to go to bed. So that's that point in the season, and this is what we do. I'm a little bit crabby today, but hopefully I don't take that out on the kind people that came to this press conference. On the bright side of things, it's Red Murdoch's birthday. He's very low-key about that stuff, which I appreciate. Understated guy in a lot of ways, but Red he's just a rock star. He's been that way since I got here. Just super engaged, attentive, bubbly personality, loves the game, student of the game, plays hard, always well prepared. He will just be, whenever his football career ends, he's going to be such a rock star in somebody's company. Hopefully it'll still be in this area, because I think he'd be a real asset to some big company in Western New York. And then my administrative assistant, Jamie McCormick, who's a Columbia grad, was a great field hockey player. Her dad played football at Georgetown before I got there, but she does a great job, wears a lot of hats for us. So it's her birthday as well. Got a really big road test coming up this week at UConn. This is a much improved football team from last year to this year. I mean, the video, it doesn't even look close. It looks like they just took 110 new guys and just plopped them down in Storrs, Connecticut, because it's a dramatically different football team. You know, you go back and you watch a lot of last year's video because you're trying to be thorough, but the personnel is completely different. You know, you look at the two deep after you start watching the film, and then you get the updated two deep, and there are a lot of new guys. So they've obviously done a very good job of infusing that program with a lot of talent from a lot of different places, and that takes a huge institutional commitment and a big commitment nowadays from your constituents, you know, your alumni, your fans, to make things like that happen. So 4 games in, after a little bit of a slow start and a few injuries early on, they really seem to be coming together and playing well, and that was really a statement win that they had this past weekend against FAU. On offense, their quarterback, number 3, Evers, Wisconsin transfer. He's really a dynamic player. He got injured early in the year against Maryland, and now that he's back and he's getting his rhythm, he's got a really strong arm. He can make all the throws. He can throw well on the run. He knows where to deliver the ball, but he's an outstanding athlete. They've run him 30-plus times on design quarterback runs. So it's not just the zone reads or the occasional option play, but it's quarterback sweep to the left and quarterback sweep to the right. And he is shifty enough. He's straight line fast. He can really hurt you as a runner as well as a thrower. They've got a number of really good offensive skill players. Many of them are Power 5 transfers. Number 1, Bell, is a really dynamic receiver, probably as good as we'll play all season. And their tackles are both big 6'7" guys. One of them's an NFL draft choice type guy. Two really, really big tight ends, and they get those tight ends up on the perimeter. They get out there on your nickel, on your safety, and they just engulf you. And you see that time and time again on video. They're a run-first team. They do a nice job with inside zone, really nice job with their mid-zone, a lot like Missouri. I mentioned the quarterback runs, the play actions, the naked, some option. They've only given up 1 sack this entire year in 4 games. Their offensive coordinator is an O-line background guy, so I certainly appreciate that about him. He came from William and Mary, and I give UConn a lot of credit for hiring a guy like that. Sometimes, you want to go out and you want to hire some guy from some high-profile school, but in my experience, through 33 years, it's often the guys from places like William and Mary that have had to do more with less that go in and really know how to get an offense going. And this offense is certainly a challenging scheme, but it's also got a lot of really, really good players. And you run for 421 yards against somebody, I mean, that's hard to do versus air, okay? 32 first downs, 542 total yards. You watch the film, and it's just 8, 9, 7, 11. It's like you're watching one of those old documentaries on the Battle of France, and the panzers are just going through the French countryside, and all you see is, the only thing I didn't see on the film was civilians, with stuff over their shoulders, like walking back to Fort Lauderdale. So it was a butt kicking. Defensively, they are very, very multiple. They're a 3-down team, but they'll get to a lot of 4-down looks out of their 3-down. It's basically a 3-3-5. The coordinator came from Mississippi State. We played Mississippi State at South Carolina, so I'm fairly familiar with what they do. It's a heavy pressure, very multiple. The D-line is constantly moving, angling. They're bringing edge pressures. They're bringing interior pressures. They're getting aligned in a lot of different exotic looks. 96 inside Gordine is a really stout guy, really hard to block. And then this kid Hardy, 19, is a big, long edge kid. He looks like he could be an SEC guy on the film. So they're going to give you a lot of multiple looks. There's going to be a lot for the quarterback to process up front. You've got to do a great job of handling all these different pressures in the run game and in drop back pass. And quite frankly, FAU just got manhandled up front. This quarterback was running for his life, and most of his yards came on scrambles. So, just watching that game, it just kind of lets you know what kind of challenge we've had. And FAU also had 5 or 6 procedural penalties in the first half. So, all these different movements and stems that the defense does, it certainly gives you some challenges as well as being on the road. Special teams wise, they're very aggressive. Their punter must have the freshest legs in America because they didn't even need them last week. 0 punts. I turn on the cut-ups to start studying their punt pressure, and the first punts you see are from the Duke game. So, and he's a good punter, but very aggressive, very explosive returners. So we've got a really, really big challenge ahead of us here, and was good to get back out there on the field today. We got out on our grass fields. I really appreciate our grounds crew getting those ready for us so that we could take advantage of those this week. And we'll try to get a little bit better every day here before we make the trip to Connecticut on Friday afternoon. Questions?
Is the grass much of a factor at all? I mean, other than obviously practicing on it, but I mean, you don't play very often. It'll be your only game all year on grass. How do you handle that as a coach to your players?
Yeah, so the turf is great because the turf never changes, but the turf will lie to you a little bit, and sometimes you can get some bad habits on the AstroTurf. Cutting, and then cutting also impacts ball security because, as you cut, sometimes that ball will come away from your body. So we had made the decision back during the summer that this week we wanted to get out on those grass fields, and our field and grounds crew has done a really nice job of getting those cut down and making sure they're nice and smooth. And it just felt like football getting out there today too. And it's a little bit softer on your legs, you know. And we've had a good stretch here with some physical games, and got another one coming up. So to get the guys out there and utilize that, just a little bit of change of scenery, you know, push out of your comfort zone a little bit. I thought they responded well, and you know, we'll continue to use those this week.
Pete, your team beats number 23, Northern Illinois. How does the team, the program, the staff kind of stave off the we beat a ranked team hangover? What does your team have to do to move forward and not look back?
Sure. Well, I guess we'll find out around 3:30 on Saturday afternoon if we've been able to move on or not. But for us, it's just business as usual. You know, we landed, whatever that was, about 11 on Saturday night. I got on the intercom of the plane, told them enjoy their night. We'll see you at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Let's be ready to get back to work. And, you know, it was just another Sunday for us. So we've got great kids, and they are very, very much on board with what we're doing. So it's just kind of been a regular week for us around here.
This game, this opponent, not being a ranked team, not a conference game, not a home game, some of the things you've had in the last few weeks, is there any potential for an emotional or motivational letdown, or how do you guard against that with young athletes?
It's the biggest game of the year. It's the biggest game of the year. It's the next game, number one, but number two, this is a really, really important game for us, and they're really good. So all you got to do is watch 10 minutes of the film. You want to move on, just turn on the film and watch them, you know, just absolutely dismantle FAU last week. That'll get your attention pretty quick.
The offense, again, sputtered a little bit in the first half, and NIU created some explosive plays in the second half. What does this team have to do in the offense in particular to create offensive consistency through those 60 minutes?
Yeah, we're still figuring that out. It's a work in progress. And there's obviously a sense of urgency to get better. But the good news is that we are very poised. We don't get down on ourselves, and we play for 60 minutes. And, you know, we went up against a pretty good defensive front the other day. And it's, you know, it's a little bit like a prize fight, and, you know, you're sparring early and you're trying to figure out, all right, what can we actually get going here? And it took a little while for us to start throwing the ball down the field. You know, that early explosive, I think it was the first play of the second quarter to Vic that really changed the field position. That was big. That got us some momentum. And then, like we saw even in the UMass game in the second half, you know, you just keep leaning on people and you stay patient with the run game, and before you know it, you know, you're going to pop a long one in there, and you're going to get some other ones that were maybe 1 or 2 yard gains in the first half that turn into 5 or 6 yard gains in the second half. But we got to be patient. We got to be patient, and you know, right now the strength of the team is on defense, but you know, we're slowly progressing on offense and special teams, and you know, we're a good team. That doesn't mean that we're going to be 100% completely balanced, a third, and a third. That's what you would like to be in a perfect world, but you know, there's definitely a sense of urgency to get better and do a better job of moving the ball and scoring points offensively. There's a sense of urgency to get some things cleaned up special teams wise, and hopefully get to a point where we can be as aggressive as I would like to be in that aspect. So, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Pete, what has he done, and what did your coaching staff recognize to feel like Victor Snow could come from kind of being a gadget guy last year to being your leading receiver right now?
Sure. Well, you play your best people, and, you know, we don't care whether they're scholarship guys or walk-ons. We don't care where they're from, how long they've been around. You're constantly evaluating your talent and getting to know your guys, figuring out what they can do well. And Vic does a lot of things well. He's actually for being one of our smallest players, he's one of our best perimeter blockers, which is really a testament to his courage, his grit, his toughness. And he's also overcome some highs and lows because, you know, the Missouri game, he made a couple plays, but there were some plays he didn't make. But he's certainly bounced back the last 2 weeks and played well. And he's an important part of our offense.
Going against a Jim Mora, you know, obviously there's been 4 games of film this season. How much do you put any stock into maybe past years or even past programs that he's run?
Not really. Not really. I don't know him. I'm sure he's a great guy. I look forward to meeting him and shaking his hand on Saturday. I am a little bit more familiar with some of their assistant coaches, but I've always had a lot of respect for UCONN, the institution, the program, and like I say, a ton of respect for how much they have progressed since last season, because it's pretty dramatic.
You said the team did a good job of compartmentalizing the victory and being ready, you know, to go on Sunday at 3 p.m. How did you celebrate? How did you enjoy that window?
Yeah, my wife's upset at me that I didn't celebrate enough. So I called my dad on the ride home from the airport. We talked for about 10 minutes, and last thing I said to him was, UConn's going to be tough. And he said, I know, and that was that. And in my mind, I had moved on already. So I'm in the doghouse for that at home. But you know, Jen's been putting up with me for a long time. I've been in the doghouse many times. So I'll slowly work my way out of it.
What have you noticed in terms of perception of the program from this win, whether in recruiting or just people you've heard from in the last few days? Sure.
Well, you know, I always try to be that guy to reach out to somebody after they've had a good win and keep in touch with your friends in the profession. And you know, obviously, when you have a good win, all your constituents get excited about it. And you know, we're trying to build a program, and certainly when you can get some good wins, that goes a long way to solidifying both internally and externally what you're doing in terms of your culture, and you hope that some of the things that you want to build and grow and develop, you hope that it gives you some momentum to get those things done. But you know, fully realize it's just one game, and you know, there's a great line from the movie Patton where you know, he's quoting somebody from history. You know, one of the Roman generals has just come back from some great victory in Tunisia or somewhere in the Middle East, and there's somebody on the chariot with him reminding him that all glory is fleeting, right? So you just got to line up and do it again. Line up and do it again, and it was a good win. You know, we did a lot of good things in that game. Those last 6 plays of defense, I'll put those last 6 plays of defense up against any 6 plays of defense anytime, anywhere, and that was awesome. But it's all part of UB football history at this point, and we're on to the next thing.
Speaking of your defense, have you, aside from watching each individual play and grading it, have you allowed yourself to step back a little bit and appreciate what Sean Dolak was able to do and how, my word, not yours, dominating he was in that game?
Yeah, so you know, it's really inspiring. A lot of these kids inspire me every day. We really got some great guys, but every once in a while you're around that kind of alpha dog that you just know he can sort of will things to happen. And you know, that's not always your best player. You know, we had a captain at Ball State, a guy named Connor Ryan, who was a St. Ignatius guy from Cleveland, and he was just kind of a, you know, beat up old receiver, this injury, that injury. Ended up playing like 15, 20 snaps a game his redshirt junior and senior year because we had guys like Willie Snead. But he was the guy, right? And when he said, this is what we're doing, it got done. It didn't matter if it was some 300-pound lineman that didn't want to do it. If Connor Ryan said, get it done, it got done. And Sean's kind of that guy for us.
The injury question this week. Jake Orlando didn't play on the
Yeah.
weekend, didn't practice today. Nick McMillan didn't practice, didn't
Yeah.
play. Will either of them be available this week?
Yeah, so I'm hopeful on Jake Orlando. He's kind of day to day, and now that we report this stuff, we'll obviously report it on game day, you know, whether he's a go or not. Nick is going to have surgery on his knee, so that should be coming up here soon. So we've been, you know, doing the prehab stuff with him, and obviously keeping close tabs on him, you know, just in terms of his academics and making sure he's got all the support he needs. So, and he's handled it quite well. So we're thinking about him, but yeah, hopefully Jake will be back for this game, and if not this game, certainly after the bye week.
Season-ending surgery for Nick?
For Nick, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Knee surgery.
What's Jake Orlando's injury?
He's got a foot. He's got a foot that's bothering him. So he, yeah, he's kind of day to day.
I think you mentioned I believe you mentioned with UMass that was an important win because of recruiting territory and that being a bit of a comparable opponent, even though out of conference. How does that dynamic work with UConn? Is that a similar situation?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You know, they do a lot of recruiting in the Northeast, so that's a team we will inevitably come up against. And be on some of the same guys. And, you know, we do a lot down in Connecticut as well. I've personally recruited Connecticut for a significant portion of my career. Some really good public school programs in Connecticut, particularly down in that New Canaan, Darien area. And then a lot of really good prep schools in Connecticut, and the kids that are going to those Connecticut prep schools, in some cases they're coming from Canada, or they're coming from all over the United States, and they're going to those places. They might be repeating a year there, they might be doing a post-grad year there, and just some wonderful prep school coaches down there and public school coaches. Some of my favorite guys that in some cases I've known 25, 30 years down there in Connecticut. And then personally, anytime I go to Connecticut, my car automatically drives itself to New Haven, where there's a Little Italy in New Haven, and Pepe's Pizza. Is, you know, getting the white clam pizza at Pepe's is always a thrill. So even if there's not somebody to recruit in Connecticut, I might make up a John Doe at one of those schools and say I've got to go in there for at least half a day.
Some creative accounting there.
See, I'm not that crabby.
Oh. Upton Bellenfant wins the game on the field goal in overtime,
right?
But then gets a public reprimand from the MAC for a gesture. Is he facing any further discipline?
We had a conversation about it after it happened, and he's a great kid. Obviously, that was a poor reaction in the heat of the moment. He was very apologetic about it. You know, it was a chippy game. It was a chippy game. And we had some penalties that I wasn't happy about. You know, they had some stuff. You know, and on that particular play, he got run over, and he didn't react the way any of us would like him to. But you know, sometimes you play a team like that, and it just has the ability to bring out the worst in you. And I'm not making excuses for our players, but and I don't expect people to understand that unless they've been there, you know, unless they've been in those kind of intense environments. But, you know, sometimes things happen that we regret, but you deal with it and you move on, and that's that. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it, unless we want to talk about the travel habits of Private Santiago or my favorite color or something like that. Let's move on.
This is a stadium UB's never won in. You've done some things with your record-wise that it's pretty rare for the UB football team. Kind of what is the value in, you know, making a bit of program history so early on in, you know, your tenure here and implementing?
You're talking about UConn?
Well, I'm using that as kind of stuff that you're doing some things that haven't been done before.
Gotcha.
Haven't been done very often. And
yeah.
What's the value in doing that so quickly?
Yeah,
so
that's why we do what we do, right? That's why we do what we do. You guys have gotten to know me well, and I'm a history guy, right? And someday I think I've used this analogy before, I'll be sitting on a dock somewhere. I'll probably have a beverage in my hand. I'll be watching the tide go up and down, maybe fishing, maybe not. I don't even care if I'm fishing. Maybe just watching the sunset, and you know, you'll reflect back on some of these things that you did, and you know, maybe you'll get a phone call from one of the guys you coached, and they'll remember something. You know, I'll tell you what I was thinking about after the NIU game, to be totally honest. I was thinking about my Ball State guys, because we never beat those guys the 5 years I was there. We had some really, really great games, but we had some great teams at Ball State, but that was also a time when NIU had a bunch of ranked teams and some Heisman Trophy caliber quarterbacks and stuff. And so I was thinking about those Ball State guys that never got to enjoy that the way our guys did. So.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.